Hey everyone, Mr. Tyler here with UALR Trio. Today we're going to focus on completing the FAFSA, which stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and the first letter in that acronym is free, so it costs nothing to complete this. And what the FAFSA does is it determines your eligibility for federal Pell Grant and loans as well from the federal government. Now, the good thing about a federal Pell Grant is if you qualify for that, and that's based off of household size and income, is that you don't have to repay that. Now, a loan you do have to repay, but a loan from the federal government, from federal student aid, is still a better option than a private loan if you do have to go that route. So really, if you're planning on going to college, completing the FAFSA is necessary. You have to complete it to get the Arkansas Challenge Scholarship, and some schools also require you to complete it to get their scholarships as well. So you want to do this, you want to complete this every year. It opens October 1st of every year. For you that are going to be starting school for the college for the first time next year, we're going to be working on the 2021-2022 FAFSA. And if you plan on taking summer classes, you might want to go ahead and complete the 2020-2021 FAFSA as well. But for most of you, the 2021-2022 FAFSA will be enough. Now, the reason why we're doing the 2021-2022 FAFSA is because you're going to start school in fall of 2021, and you're going to continue through the spring of 2022. So we're going to go over how to complete that today. I'm going to walk you through it. I hope this will be helpful. As always, you can contact me if you have any questions along the way or need help. The invitation is always that you can come in here. We have a computer lab where we can sit down and do the FAFSA together. Or if we need to set up a Zoom meeting, that's fine as well. We are here to help you, so just let us know. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. When you get to your browser, and you want to make sure your browser works with it, I'm using Google Chrome. Microsoft Edge didn't work too well, but try your different browsers, and it'll let you know up here at the top if it's not going to work well. So for those of you that have never completed a FAFSA, what you want to do is you want to create an account. And your account is known as your FSA ID, which stands for Federal Student Aid. And you're going to need your social security number and a mobile phone number or an email address. Now, let me be very clear about what the FSA ID is. This is kind of like this will be what you use to log in to complete your FAFSA. This will be the information if you take out a loan. You have to sign something called a master promissory note. It will be used as your signature to complete the FAFSA. Not only do you need to complete the FAFSA, but your parent needs to. And I say parent because only one parent has to sign off on it. So if you come from a two-parent household, one of them can do it. If you come from a household where you only live with one parent, then the parent you live with the majority of the time that provides the majority of your financial support will be the one that signs it. If your case is a little different, that you don't live with your parents, you may live with another family member. The only way that they can sign as the parent is if they do have legal custody over you. They are now considered your guardian. So if you're confused on for the FAFSA, who is considered your parent, let me know, because I know that it can get confusing. So you need to create an FSA ID, and your parent needs to as well. So what you'll do is once you get to studentaid.gov, you're going to click Create Account. And I'm going to, like I was saying, when you When you get to your FSA ID, you're going to fill this information out. As long as you have your social security number, you should be able to complete this fairly easily. Since I already have an account, I really can't walk through with you creating one like I'd like to. But if you have any issues setting it up, once again, reach out to me or reach out to someone here at Trio. We're happy to help. So once you've completed your FSA ID, you want to go back to studentaid.gov to create your, to actually start doing the FAFSA. So you'll click log in. Okay, so once you've completed your FSA ID, you want to go back to studentaid.gov, and this time you want to go where it says apply for aid, and there is a blue link that says complete the FAFSA form, and click that. And it's going to take you to this page. So for you, you are going to be incoming freshman, so you've never completed a FAFSA. So where it says new to FAFSA process, start here. That's where you'll start. Now, going forward, when you apply for the following years, you'll do login, or if you have to come back in later on and correct anything in your FAFSA, you would go there because you're a returning user. But since you've never logged in to do the FAFSA, the first time you'll start here. Every time afterwards, it's this one. So click start here. And you will click I'm the student, and you'll use your FSA ID and your password that you created. It does give you the option to use your email address or mobile number as the username as well, but it's going to be easier to just use the FSA ID. So this is where you're going to log in. For my purposes, just so I can complete it with you, for my purposes to be able to complete it with you, I am going to do the I am parent, prepare, or student from freely associated state. So I'm going to fill this out really quickly, and then we're going to actually be in the FAFSA. But remember, you're going to start with, you're going to click I am the student. The only reason anyone would use this is if your parent, someone's assisting you like myself, would be completing this for you or with you, but you will be using this one. Okay, so once you've logged into the FAFSA, you'll see a page like this. It'll say welcome and then your name. The name I chose is Sam Student, just so I'm able to walk it through with you. You're going to have the option to start the 2021-2022 FAFSA, which is the one that y'all all need to complete. And it'll also give you the option to do the 2020-2021 FAFSA. And we definitely want to do this 2021-2022 one. But if you think you may take summer classes, it's not going to hurt to go ahead and fill this one out, because a lot of schools will still be using the FAFSA from this year. But the one we're going to focus on today is this one. So as you can see down here, it's showing that there's no FSA ID associated with my account. That is because I created an account to show you, but yours should look different here, and notice that, and should confirm or not say anything about you not having an FSA ID. So I'm going to click Start 2021-2022 FAFSA, and it's immediately going to ask me to create a save key. Create a save key and write it down, and don't forget it. Put it with your FAFSA information with your username, FSA ID, and this way that if we need to stop, we can, and we don't have to start over, and it'll take us to where we were when we started. This here is just a little overview. No need to really read that. If you want to, you can. Just click Next. And as you can see, we are now in the FAFSA application. The Social Security number there is not a valid Social Security number. And it's got the first name that I gave them, last name, and the birth date that I gave them. So you just want to check and make sure this information is correct, and you will click Next. Next, you will enter your email address and your telephone number. So I'm just going to put samstudent@blank.com. You want to be sure that you're using an email address that you're going to have access to after you graduate. So if you don't have access to your school email after you graduate, or it's not the best at getting emails outside of your school, you probably want to use one that's personal, like a Gmail or Yahoo one. And I'm just going to give it a fake phone number, and we're going to go on. So permanent email, your permanent mailing address, city, state zip code. If you, at any point that your mailing address changes, you can go into the FAFSA and update that, because you want to make sure that it's accurate. So I'm going to just create a fake one real quick for me so we can continue. So I'm going to put 00 Willow Plain, we'll say Little Rock, Arkansas 72204. And the next question that's going to be prompted, it's going to ask, have you lived in Arkansas for at least 5 years? Answer that truthfully. It shouldn't impact you in any way that I have ever known if you didn't live here for the past 5 years. I click no. It's going to ask, what's your legal residence status? What state are you a legal resident of? Just to confirm that you are a resident of Arkansas, not another state. But for most of you, it shouldn't impact you as long as you're a resident of Arkansas. For anything Arkansas related, it certainly wouldn't affect federal aid. And the next question it's going to ask is, are you a U.S. citizen? So there's 3 options. The first one is, yes, I'm a U.S. citizen. And the second one is, no, I'm an eligible non-citizen. And the third one is, no, I'm not a citizen or eligible non-citizen. So if you're born in the U.S. or you're a naturalized citizen, you would click the first one, yes, I'm a U.S. citizen. If you're not a citizen, but you are eligible or know you're eligible for federal aid, you'll click that one. And if you're not a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, you can't complete the FAFSA. The federal government does not allow non-citizens or non-eligible citizens to receive federal aid. Now, if you are not sure if you are an eligible non-citizen, you are free to reach out to us at the TRIO office, and we can help you determine which you are. So we're going to continue here. The question is, what will your high school completion status be when you begin college in 2021-2022 school year? The answer will be high school diploma. We are all going to get our high school diploma. You have to either have that or a GED to go to college. But I know that everyone in here is going to get their high school diploma, so that is what we're going to pick. And the next question you're asked is, what college degree or certificate will you be working on when you begin the 2021-2022 school year? So this is up to you. Answer this for based on now if you plan on getting a bachelor's degree. For you guys, it will be first bachelor's degree. If you plan on going to a 4-year school, going to school 4 years, getting that 4-year degree. Associate degree if you plan on doing some type of trade, even certificate or diploma. The one thing that none of you will pick is, as first-time freshmen, you won't be getting a second bachelor's degree, and you will not be going for a college, graduate, or professional degree. You won't be getting your master's or anything. So for most of you, it's going to be first bachelor's degree. And then the next question, will you have your first bachelor's degree before you begin the 2021-2022 school year? And the answer to that one will be no for you that are going in as freshmen. You do not have a bachelor's yet. If you do, it's news to me, congratulations, but most of you would be no. So the next one is, what will your college grade level be when you begin the 2021-2022 school year? So for all of you, it should be never attended college first year. Even if you took college classes, this one right here will be your answer. If you took college classes while you're in high school, because it's going based on like actual being a full-time college student, not anything concurrent. And then it's going to ask you if you're interested in work study. And work study, when it's talking about that, is the federal government gives colleges so much money to give students that qualify for federal funds to work an on-campus job. I generally just tell everyone to click yes. If you qualify, you'll qualify. If you don't, you don't. Doesn't mean you can't work a campus job. It just means you can't work one that's paid with federal work study dollars. So we'll click yes. Ask you, are you male or female? Are you registered with the Selective Service system? This question's only going to prompt if you're a male. If you are a male, you have to register with Selective Service. If you click female, it is not going to be a question. But for males, you have to register with the Selective Service. If you click no, it's going to ask, do you want to us to register? You can go ahead and click yes. Click yes, you've already done it. You're good to go. But you do have to register with the Selective Service. The only exception I can think of is if you're not 18 yet or will not be 18 anytime during that school year that you'll be receiving aid. But that's not going to be the case for most of you. Well, for really any of you males. It's going to ask for your driver's license number if you have one. So you'll enter that in the state. Since I'm creating this as a mock account, I'm not going to enter one. The question here is, are you a foster youth or were you at any time in the foster care system? So essentially, if you're currently a foster youth or at any point in your life you've been in the foster care system, you would answer yes and no if not. So when we're talking about parents, that is your biological parent or your adoptive parents. So whichever one. And for instance, let's say parent one will be mom. Let's say they went to college or beyond. Parent two's dad. They just finished high school. This was in my case, I would be putting parent one, mom, high school, and dad, middle school, junior high level. You just answer that. That's just for the federal government. They just kind of want to know a little bit of information to kind of track students on, how many are going to be first generation or anything like that. It's not going to have any bearing on the amount of aid you get. So I'm going to pick a high school. I'm just going to actually pick my alma mater, which is Star City. It's in Star City, Arkansas. And I'll click confirm, and it's going to search. And when you see your school name, make sure it's the right city, you'll click the select button here. And it's going to fill that out for us. And you'll click next. Now it's going to ask about the colleges you want to go to. You can put up to 10 colleges. And what this will do is it's going to send your FAFSA information to your schools, because your school actually is the one that processes your aid. So some schools don't process aid until you've done your admissions paperwork and everything. So when you decide what school you're going to, you want to make sure you get all of that done. But I think that at this point, for those of you that are going to be going to school next year, you should have your options pretty narrowed down. I always recommend picking your backup schools. So any of you who are in the Little Rock area, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and put University of Arkansas at Little Rock on here, or University of Arkansas at Pulaski Tech. So I'm just going to actually put 1 on here just to show you how to do it. You know what, I'll do 2 just to show how to do multiple. It's going to ask if you know the college's federal student code. Rarely does anyone know that. You can get it from the school, but it's easier just to look it up. So I'm going to put Arkansas in Little Rock and click search. And I'm going to look for University of Arkansas at Little Rock. And actually, if I could put multiple on here, I can click shorter, and I could do Lander if I wanted to, but I'm just going to do 1 right now. I'm going to click next, and it's going to ask about housing plans. For school, a lot of schools for freshmen do require you to live on campus the first year. If you live within so many miles of the school, a certain radius, they'll exempt you and allow you to live with a parent. Not going to let you live off campus, but you would need to live with a parent. But since most of us are going to be living on campus, since most of you would have to live on campus, for most schools, go ahead and click that. And I'm going to show you how real quick to add an additional school, because you can put 10. You'll click add more schools, and we're going to type in Arkansas again, and I'm going to put in North Little Rock because I'm going to add Pulaski Tech. And you see it right there, Pulaski Technical College. And I could keep going and click add more schools without having to do next, but I'm just going to do the 2. And then there as well, I would say, we'll say there we're going to live off campus because they are to your school, so you don't have to worry about living on campus. Click next. And it's going to ask your marital status. And these next 2 questions usually get confusing for high school students, because, you know, FAFSA, you could be the first time completing the FAFSA, or anybody completing the FAFSA. Age is different. So this could be for someone that does have dependents, children that they're taking care of. Do you now have, or will you have children who receive more than half of their support from you between July 1, 2021 and June 30th, 2022? So if this is, the question's asking is, do you have a child, and if so, do you provide more than half of their financial support? For most of us, it's going to be no, but if you think it might be yes, once again, we can talk about that if you need to reach out to me. Do you have dependents other than your children or spouse who live with you or receive more than half of their support from you now through June 30th, 2022? Once again, the answer is likely no. If you have a situation where you think it might be yes, I'm happy to meet with you about that as well, talk to you about that. So now we have these check boxes, and you'll check these boxes if they apply to you. So are you currently serving on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces for purposes other than training? So that's kind of asking right there, are you, you know, in the U.S., first of all, if you're not in the U.S. Army, then definitely it's not going to apply to you. But if you are serving right now other than training, you're deployed or something, that would be the answer. For those of you, since you're in your senior year of high school, no, because you're in high school right now. Are you a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces? Once again, you wouldn't have fully gotten there anyway now. Anyway, at any time since you turned age 13, were both your parents deceased? Were you in foster care? Or are you a dependent or ward of the court? So let's break that down. Since you turned 13, so at the age of 13 on, if both of your parents passed away, you were in the foster care system at any point after 13, or you were a dependent or ward of the state had custody of you, you would click this. If not, you leave it unclicked. As determined by a court in your state of legal residence, are you or were you an emancipated minor? So that is essentially meaning at any point were you no longer considered under the legal custody of your parents or anyone else, you were independent by yourself, and the court ruled that you were allowed to be by yourself and in charge of yourself. If that doesn't apply to you, leave that blank. Does someone other than your parent or step-parent have legal guardianship of you as determined by a court in your state of legal residence? That's saying, okay, your parent, step-parent does not have any custody of you. Your custody now belongs to someone else. Someone else has taken your is now your guardian, legal guardian over the state. If that applies to you, check it. If not, leave it blank. If none of these apply to you, click none of the above. I know that these questions can be kind of confusing. If you think one might apply to you or not sure, we are here to help you figure that out at TRIO. So once again, let us know if we can help. So I'm going to click none of the above and click next. Owner after July 1, 2020, were you homeless or were you self-supporting and at risk for being homeless? This is can be a confusing question. So we're going to actually click the question mark here and let it break it down for you. So homeless means lacking fixed, regular, or adequate housing. You may be homeless if you are living in a shelter, park, motels, hotels, public spaces, camping grounds, cars, abandoned buildings, or you're temporarily living with other people because you have nowhere else to go. Also, if you're living in any of these situations and fleeing an abusive parent, you may also be considered homeless even if your parent would otherwise provide a place to live. Select yes if at any time after July 1, 2022 you were homeless or were self-supporting and at risk of being homeless. No if not. That can be a confusing question. For my time working in a financial aid office, I learned that question wasn't as clear cut. So if you're unsure, reach out to us so we can help you determine the correct answer for that one. So now the FAFSA is going to ask questions about your parents. And it's saying, based on your answers, the dependency status questions, you're considered a dependent student, which means that for the purpose of the FAFSA, they are saying you're dependent. That means that they're going to go off your parents' income and information, not your own. And most of you will be considered, most graduating seniors up until the time they're 24 or married or anything along those lines are going to be considered a dependent student. So you will have to provide information about your parents. If for any reason that they determine that you're an independent student, you will not have to. If you are unable to provide information about your parents at the moment, click that. But in most cases, if you're a dependent student and there's not any situation that that you could be classified as independent, you're going to have to provide information about your parents. So we're going to click that. And let's see. So now we're on the parent information. And remember, you only have to have one of the parents fill it out. And that will be if you're in a two-parent household, only one of them have to do it. If you're in a one-parent household, then they'll be the ones that do it. If you have two parents but they are no longer together, divorced, you will provide the information for the parent that provides 50% or more of your financial support, and that's usually the parent that you live with. So there is a link here that says parents, and it does break it down about it. So and what information you have to provide. So let's think of a situation, for instance, that you live with your mom and your mom's remarried. You will be, and that's who you're using. you're going to be providing your mom's financial information and her spouse's, even though that is your step parent. You wouldn't be providing your mom's and your dad's. Same thing as if maybe you live with your dad and he's not remarried, then you only have to report his information. But it's done by what is considered a household. And this link here really does help. So let's say that we have remarried after your parents remarried after being divorced. You're using parent and step parent. But let's say it's a situation where your parents never married. The parent that you live with most during the 12 months would be the one whose information that you provide. So if you have a complex situation or anything, just let me know and we will get it figured out. So I'm just going to say that mine is, let's say that mine is never married, and which parent's information will be provided. I'm going to say mother. And you'll answer these questions as they relate to you. So I'm going to pick a random social that's not real for mom. And I probably need to be a little more creative because I try to use the same one. Mother's name, we will say Sally. Oh, excuse me, student. We will say Sally. Well, you just have to do a first initial. Mother's date of birth. And mother's email. I'm just going to say mom@mom.com. And now it's asking, has your mother lived in Arkansas for at least 5 years? Once again, you'll answer that as it relates to you. And if you say no, it's going to ask you a few more questions for you to answer, like where legal residence, what state she's a legal resident of. And she could have moved here 4 years ago and be a legal resident of Arkansas. It's just to confirm. And it's going to ask if she became a legal resident before this date, and you would answer that appropriately. But I'm going to put yes. So now we're to the household size portion, and this is determining how many, for the federal government's purposes, are considered to be in your household. That doesn't mean how many people lived there necessarily. It's based on the federal government, which usually is reserved to parents and children and other dependents if they're classified that way. So for most people, it's a little straightforward. If not, as I've said before, reach out to me, we can help you. So it is determined that we have 2 people in the household, because I answered that. I just had my mother and me. But it's going to ask your mother's, this is going to list the other people that live with you. So your mother's other children, even if they do not live with your mother, if your mother will provide more than half of their income for those specified dates, or these children can answer no to every dependency question on the FAFSA. So in most cases, if you have siblings that live with you that are your mother's children, you'll enter how many. So let's say, I'm going to say I have 2 little sisters. So I'm going to put 2 there. And you see that it changes the household size. And it also says other people. If they now live with your mother provides more than half of their support, and your mother will continue to provide more than half of their support. So it's not just saying that if they live with with your mother, but she's also providing half of their support. And I'm going to put 0. The question here that says number in college, that's going to be based on from next school year when you would be starting college, how many of the people reported here that are in your household will be in college. I'm going to put 1 because I'm going to say it's just me. But hey, maybe one of your parents are going to college, maybe one of your siblings are going to college. You want to count them as well. So if you and your sibling are both going to college, you would put 2. So now we get to the point where it's wanting financial information for your parent. And you will be using the 2019 tax return for the 2021-2022 FAFSA. So there are a few ways to get this. First, you want to start with answering if you have filed, which would be already completed, haven't filed but will file, or not going to file. If your parent has completed this, you'll click already completed. If for some reason they are not required to file taxes, then click not going to file, and it'll ask some additional questions about that. But the part that most people usually have questions about is when you're actually reporting that tax information. So we're going to say already completed, and it's going to ask what type of tax return. The most common one is this IRS 1040, so that's what I'm going to select. If it's another one for your parent that they use, click that one. And it says for 2019, what is your mother's tax filing status? So you want to sit down with your parent and have their tax return, and they may know, but if not, the tax return would say how they filed. I'm going to put head of household, since that would likely be in my situation what my mother would have filed. If you're dealing with a two-parent household and they filed together, you would do married filed joint return. If you live in a household where your parents are married, or it's a parent and a step parent and they filed separately, you do married filed separate return. So I'm going to do head of household, and I really like this tool here. It's linked to IRS, and you can click it, and you'll use your parent will use their FSA ID to get this information. It'll generate everything to let them go and pull that information directly from the IRS. For today's purposes, since it is a mock account, I can't do that because there's nothing to pull from the IRS. So I'm going to not do that. But for y'all should be able to do it. You just want to make sure that you're using the information that it's going to ask you on that data retrieval tool that is exact to that income tax. Like if you put street and spell it out, but on the income tax return it says just ST, it's not going to pull it. So you have to put it in there exactly how it shows up on that return. So for me, it's going to say, what was your mother's adjusted gross income for 2019? I'm just going to make a number. How much did your mother earn from working wages? Wages, salaries, and tips. I'm just going to keep it the same, not saying she had anything extra. You should be able to see on that tax return if you're going through here and you don't use the data retrieval tool, if they did file a Schedule 1. I'm just going to say that they didn't for the purposes of this. Do you want to skip the remaining questions about your and your mother's income and assets? And if it'll allow you, I always recommend yes. You can click no and then continue to answer them, but if they're not going to require you, I just usually will recommend say yes, so we can get the application over. And it's going to process. It's going to ask, are you a preparer? And no, if you and your parent are completing this together, you are not a preparer, you are the student. So leave that as no, click next, and it's going to give you this report here for you to review. And then what you will do is, after you've sorted it out, click next again, and you will need to do two things. You will need to provide your student signature, and you're going to use your FSA ID to do that. You click I agree, and then your parent will need to do it and do theirs as well. I don't think it's going to let it. Yeah, it's not going to let us do that today because we don't really have FSA IDs accounts. But once it's completed, you should be able to click next or confirm, and you're going to get to that confirmation. And once it will say that you've completed it and that you will be sent a student aid report. And you should receive a student aid report which kind of outlines, based on what you provided, what you are eligible for in federal aid. That should come to your email. So if you don't get that student aid report within so many days, then you come back here and make sure you confirmed. But you should get a confirmation on this page that you have submitted the FAFSA. Now, I know this was a lot of information. Everyone's situation is different. I could spend hours on here going through the different scenarios. So if there are things you have questions about, feel free to reach out to your TRIO counselor. If I'm your TRIO counselor, feel free to reach out to me. I hope this information was helpful for you. And like we said, we hope to help you. And if you have any questions, let us know. Thank you.